Even though the short-term spending bill didn't include Ukraine aid, President Biden seemed to imply that a deal was made with Speaker McCarthy to pass future funding. This afternoon, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre didn't exactly offer any clarity when she was asked questions about it. Here was some of her exchange with CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes.
When I asked the president about the prospect of future deals with Speaker McCarthy, he said, we just made one about Ukraine. But it sounds like you're saying they didn't just make one about Ukraine.
What I'm saying is that we know that there's bipartisan support, right, for Ukraine funding.
Well, why would the president say that he made a deal if he didn't?
I'm just saying that what we're seeing currently from Congress is that there has been, right? There has been overwhelming support. That is what the president said. A majority of Congress showing overwhelming support.
Is it possible the president made a deal that you don't know about?
I'm just saying that I'm not going to go beyond what the president said.
CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us now. Scott, we have a lot to get to, but let's start there with this apparent Ukraine deal that President Biden may have struck with House Speaker McCarthy. Do you know if a deal was made?
So we asked Speaker McCarthy that very question several times today, and he says no, there was no agreement to bring up Ukraine aid at a later date and guarantee its passage in return for what happened this past weekend, the deal to keep the government open. But you're going to see some of McCarthy's critics capitalize on either the lack of clarity over this or any allusion to a deal, because they've been coming for his job, and they are likely to do so again this week, saying he has cut deals that are unacceptable with the White House. They said as much after the debt ceiling crisis was ended with a cooperation agreement between McCarthy and President Biden in May. And they've said it again this weekend when they think he cut too sweetheart a deal to keep the government open without exacting the concessions they wanted, border security legislation and significant cuts to federal programs. This is going to fuel a fire that's already burning here at the Capitol.
And one of his loudest critics, Congressman Matt Gaetz, who is trying to oust the speaker, spoke on the House floor today. Let's take a listen to what some of he had to say about McCarthy.
It is becoming increasingly clear who the Speaker of the House already works for, and it's not the Republican conference.
So how is McCarthy responding to that? And just bring us up to speed about how realistic it is that Gaetz will actually succeed in getting rid of McCarthy.
I think ultimately, Gaetz is seizing on whatever he can seize on to continue to amplify himself and amplify this argument that he believes McCarthy has to go. Now, obviously, Democrats would hold some cards in this case they don't typically hold, that they may be able to vote in a way synchronized with these defecting Republicans to jeopardize Kevin McCarthy's speakership. Right now, they're keeping their powder dry. They haven't said whether they're going to plow ahead and join Gaetz's effort or stand back and do some other alternative to preserve Kevin McCarthy. We do know this, though. Without equivocation, McCarthy is making clear he thinks he's going to stand up and knock down any of these challenges. And in the meantime, it serves as a distraction during a busy legislative week, and it seeks to add acrimony to an already charged situation where members of Congress have 45 days to cut a deal they couldn't cut before this past weekend on the bigger spending issues. And acrimony is the last thing they need when it's deal-making time.
But it's hard to imagine that they won't have a healthy dose of it in the next 45 days. And Scott, just tell us what has to happen between now and then in order for the government to remain open, because they still have a lot they want to get done. And it's hard to imagine what's going to change between now and then to bridge this gap.
Well, there's a whole grocery list of wedge issues that need to be rectified, not one or two, but a whole bunch. But potentially the biggest one is what to do with the Ukraine funding in general. There are obviously some number of House Republicans who have a hesitation, if not a rejection, toward approving more Ukraine money. That's why it was stripped from the deal this weekend. But there's a bipartisan group that says it has to be done and has to be done before November. Take a listen to one of them, Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger from Virginia.
We have to make sure that we are clearly outlining what we will make available to them in the future and continuing with the support that we give them as they are fighting for their own country, for their freedom. Once Ukraine was invaded, the United States played an extraordinary role in leading efforts initially to sanction Russia and also to provide the extraordinary and very necessary aid to Ukraine that not only has the United States provided, but our partners throughout the world. And so the risk that exists the longer we wait is that we might allow for some amount of doubt.
That's why some of this could just be intractable, because you've got Republicans and Democrats split on something as big and pressing as Ukraine funding. Forget the other things that are tying them up. All of this has to get rectified in a month and a half in a Congress that seems jammed up on so much.
I'm glad you brought us back to Ukraine, Scott, because I got this sense from McCarthy that he was trying to attach funding for border security to any new aid for Ukraine, which I don't believe was on the table before. Is that true?
At a minimum, it's a rhetorical argument that he's trying to make, that the Democrats and perhaps the White House are too fixated on Ukrainian security and not enough on American security. It certainly serves the purposes of him trying to get his border security measures passed. Some of the border security measures are just non-starters with Democrats, the White House, and the Senate, including infusing billions more taxpayer dollars into the border wall. But this Ukrainian issue is going to surface before the next deadline. There's been some emphasis put by Democrats and some Senate Republicans that money is needed yesterday, much less by November 15th or November 17th. I expect that to command a lot of the bandwidth in Congress as this week begins.
And Scott, as if there wasn't enough drama in those halls already, I want to ask you about Congressman Jamal Bowman, who pulled a fire alarm, he says, to escape the room, to get out physically. Can you bring us up to speed about whether he's going to face consequences for that and what that might look like if he does?
CBS News can confirm there's both a House Administration Committee and a U.S. Capitol Police investigation underway into what happened Saturday in the Cannon House office building across the street. Republicans are accusing Bowman of deliberately pulling that fire alarm to delay what was some pretty tense and hectic proceedings on that continuing resolution. Bowman has apologized, said he did it mistakenly trying to get through a door as he rushed to votes, but we'll see where the investigation leads. He, by the way, is a former middle school principal.
All right, Scott MacFarlane, thank you for all of your reporting, as always.